episode 2, season 1 of the Unsung podcast. Today I have a very, very special guest with me. Um, 1994, outside Bayshore Shopping Mall in Ottawa, I was involved in an attack by three guys, and I came pretty close to dying. And thanks to Joanne, who's here with me today, I'm here to do this podcast. Um, it took me almost 28 years to reconnect with her. It was January 2022. After about my 15th time trying and I gave up, I said, this is my last attempt. And the post went crazy viral, 50,000 something views.
Wow.
6 days later, 6 days after 29 years, I met Joanne for the second time. So, Joanne, thanks for coming on with me.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, how's it going out in Ottawa?
It's cold today. It's very cold, but doing well, doing well. Nice to see you again, and I have to say, I'm glad you're here.
I am too. It was I almost gave up, and this is if you're out there, if you got a goal, a mission, just never give up because this post went CTV, CBC, CNN, Fox, Yahoo. It was people from every corner of the country, and then someone put me in contact with Joanne, and we started talking, and then I'll never forget her smile. I was on the ground. I saw a big pool around me. I didn't think I was gonna make it, and then that smile looking down on me, and then when she sent me the picture of herself in uniform back from that time, and my jaw just hit the floor. So, what was that like for you? Was that the first time you've ever?
So, as a paramedic, the people that reach out after the fact are few and far between. You don't get a whole lot of people that reach out. And it's not the patient's fault because when you are in your own tragedy, when you are waking up or really starting to realize what's going on, usually the things that you remember start in the hospital. It doesn't actually start from where the paramedics are helping you. And that makes sense. So the first contact that usually people remember are the nurses and the doctors, and that's okay. I mean, I didn't start to be a paramedic to get the thank yous and all that kind of thing. But I have to say that when people reach out and give, a thank you or really when I see that the fruits of the labor, the part that, you really did make a difference, that makes my heart grow strong. That says that's what it's about. That's why I got into being a paramedic. Um, being a paramedic can be, it can be, there's so many different calls. Not every call is like yours. Not every call is a life-threatening emergency, but those are the types of calls that I really, really loved. I mean, I loved all kinds of the calls, but I did love making the quick decisions and making the life-threatening, the fast-paced decisions and controlling the scene and controlling the bystanders and that kind of thing. But it's calls like yours where you think, how are they doing? You know, did they move on from this? Because that those are your critical moments, right? Like you didn't ask to be attacked. You didn't know that day when you got up that you were going to be attacked. You didn't know. People wake up in the morning and they don't know they're going to be in a big accident. They don't know they're going to have a heart attack. They don't know they're going to be diagnosed with a major illness. They don't know they're going to need a paramedic. Um, so not a lot of people reach out to paramedics, you know. But I mean, to think that you did it for what is it, 28 years? You were
At
looking
least,
for
at least 20 years I started searching. I talked to, directors and then retired people. And it was, these guys told me that at that time, 2% of paramedics in Canada were female.
And that's true.
Yeah.
Like, and then the other thing that was going against you was that there was what's called, and I don't even explain this very well, but there was a download where there was many outlying services that downloaded to the city of Ottawa, and that happened, I think, in 2001, January 1st, 2001, something like that. So when you had your accident, I actually worked for a service called Canada Ambulance, Arm Prior Canada Ambulance, and we would do what's called a standby in Bell's Corners, which is Nepean. And so the city of Ottawa ended up growing really huge in 2000 or 2001. And it encapsulated all these small ambulance services to be one huge ambulance service. So all that happened before or after your accident, which made it even harder for you to find me. And then I had a big accident myself, which impaired my memory huge. So when I did see your call, like I'm looking for the person who picked me up, I knew it might have been me, but I couldn't say for sure. And I didn't want to give you the false hope.
Hmm.
But when you said a few things, like I asked you questions instead of giving you the answer. Like I asked you, what do you know what color her eyes were? You said brown. I said, how is she wearing her hair? You said in a ponytail. I said, and then you said something that resonated with me because a couple people said that. And you, when you talked about my smile, you said you have the smile of an angel. And a couple of my patients said, your smile brought me through, or your smile told me things were going to be okay. And when you said that, that made me cry.
You
And
reminded
then I,
me of that. You remind me of that TV show, Touched by an Angel, and that when Monica would always come in and she was glowing. I don't know. Could have been the pain meds. I don't know, but it was.
and then when you saw my picture, when I sent you my picture, uh, I, that, that sealed the deal, that sealed the deal for sure. So yeah, here we are,
No, I,
friends.
I I do have a question I've always wondered. You watch the TV shows and the Chicago Med and all that stuff, and when the paramedics drop off a patient to an ER, they're standing around doing things. Do you get like a bit of compression time? Like when you go on a call, there's just boom, next one comes, you're gone.
So when I started my career in 1988. June 15th, 1988 is my start date as being a paramedic. When I started as a paramedic, there was more what we call downtime. And honestly, that is what I would call therapy for a paramedic, where, if you did a major call, you did a suicide, you did a shooting, you did a major motor vehicle accident, you could actually, because often your partner is your lifeline. And so after the call is when you actually had a chance to talk it through, or sometimes there would be some paramedic humor, which the layman would not appreciate very much, but it really helps the paramedic to get through the call. So that would be the decompression time where you can actually talk things through, or maybe even after your shift, you would go for a beer or a coffee and you'd be able to talk things through. And really that would be your therapy. Um, However, unfortunately, then with, you know, like I said, when people wake up in the morning, they don't think they're going to need a paramedic. So with that, unfortunately, a lot of the tax dollars go to police and fire. I'm not downing. I'm not downing police and fire. We need our firefighters. We need our police officers. But people are more afraid of being robbed, having your house broken into. They're more afraid of having your house go on fire because, that's your biggest asset. But you don't think that you're going to need a paramedic. You wake up healthy. And so your tax dollars go to police and fire. The amount of tax dollars, I don't really want to dwell on this a whole lot, but unfortunately it's come to such a critical um, point where we need so many more paramedics on the road. So right now, and even when I left, I had to leave. I had my accident in 2010, so that was quite some time ago. But really, you had your patient on the stretcher, and as soon as your stretcher was clear, you were getting another call,
Yeah.
and that's the way it is today. So I feel bad for the paramedics today. And when you hear on the news, Ottawa is going to hire 26 paramedics this year, people think, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot, but it's not. And it does nothing.
Yeah.
So, Ottawa needs right now more than 100 paramedics. They need to hire more than 100 paramedics for it to make it remotely okay. And the amount of dollars that go into paramedicine compared to police and fire is just minimal. It's embarrassing. We've always been what's called the ugly sister of emergency services,
Well,
and it's because people will always need, before you die, you're going to need a paramedic. That's a fact. In your last year of life, you're probably going to need a paramedic more than once. We just don't think like that.
for sure. Now you mentioned decompression. I'm looking at all those beautiful paintings in the background. Um, we've a lot of times in life you chase friendships or you find you're always the person reaching out or when we reconnected, one thing I love at least a couple times a week, we'll either fire each other a text or a message and just say, how are you doing? That's followed by a no, how are you really doing? And then this beautiful painting on my left here. um, Joanne sent me this painting maybe about a year after we started talking, and it just we both have issues with mental health and PTSD. And this, when anyone ever asks me what PTSD is like, this picture, it's basically a field of tulips, and then there's lightning hit it. It's called the perfect storm, I do believe. And for anyone, you could be having the most perfect day, everything is amazing, and something triggers you, and boom.
Right.
Um, the painting on my other side was done by my daughter, who Joanne and her have bonded and talked and exchanged some artwork. Um, so I kind of tap this picture sometimes if I'm having a crappy day, like you see the college football players doing coming out of the arena getting ready to kick butt. I'll just stop and look at this every morning. It's been in my living room ever since. And yeah, as you can see, Joanne is an amazing artist. She has a Facebook page for her pictures, her paintwork, and Joe's art, right?
Those are, I'm going to be honest, I have not painted very much since my husband and I, we lost one of our very best friends a year ago, October. And I haven't painted much since then. Um, when he was in hospice, I went to see him every single day. And even before hospice, I talked to him about my next series. And we kind of planned it together. And I haven't been able to do it. I'm going to do it.
Well, this painting will be in my living room for as long as I'm alive, and then I'll pass it down to my daughter. And just as a reminder to, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You and I also have a special little project in the works that we won't tell too much information about, but we can
Well,
kind we can give a sneak peek.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you can talk about it if you want. We can ramp it up a little bit, but it's my fault that it's not completed yet. You can say as much as you want, but the reason it's not completed is because of me. But I will get working on it. I need
No,
to.
there's no time frame or rush, but for a lot of years myself after this incident, I couldn't watch medical shows. If I saw an ambulance, I would get terrified. I went on a tour a couple years ago with my daughter. It was the first time I got inside one since 1994. So Joanne and I are coming up with a children's book that we're gonna do. She'll do the drawings. I've got the writing done to basically make ambulances less scary for kids. And I'm gonna turn this one over to her. We'll launch it through her because we want to do a fundraiser where 100% of proceeds go to um, support dogs and animals for first responders with PTSD.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that might be coming in the next year. Like I said, there's no time frame on it, but it's going to be one of a kind. I mean, we got obviously there was another paramedic with you, which we've never been able to track down, but we've got a paramedic and the guy that she helped save and just making a difference for kids. So I think it's going to be pretty special.
Yeah, I know who that paramedic is, but he did his career ended quite early due to substance abuse, and that's very unfortunate. But I will say a little shout out to him is that he is he's a nice guy, really nice guy. You know, and that's part of paramedicine is when I started, 4% of paramedics actually retired the job.
Wow.
It's not much higher now. You know, there's back injuries, knee injuries, shoulder injuries, PTSD, substance abuse. It's it's a tough job. I honestly, I love my job. I loved being a paramedic. I just went to a funeral of a fellow paramedic who passed away from cancer, and I realized in that funeral that I really miss it. I really miss going to work. I miss being a paramedic. I miss my paramedic friends. I miss doing the calls. I miss everything about it. And I really like medical shows. I know you don't because I mean you were on the other side of it. Um, my husband and I we critique them.
Oh,
Yeah. And to talk about your painting in the background there, that I mean, that's the Ottawa's famous for the Tulip Festival, and some of my happiest times is going to the Tulip Festival with my mom and I have three biological children, and I would take the kids and put them in the tulips and
hmm.
take photos of them, and those are some of my happiest times. And then to describe PTSD to people a little bit is your brain can think very dark thoughts, very dark thoughts. So that is the dark sky in that painting. So the tulips are my happy times, and thinking about. I mean, I didn't paint the children in the painting, but you know, my kids in the tulips, and then the dark sky is the PTSD, and then I have CPTSD. And then what happens with PTSD is that the lightning can just come out of nowhere, which, you know, in life that can happen. So that is what it's like living with PTSD, is that you don't know when it's going to hit, and it can be the hardest thing to learn to control, right? You know that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lifetime of learning to control your mind, because the smallest things can be a trigger, right? Um, it can be a smell. It can be something visual. It can be a TV show. It can be a sound. So you don't know what's going to set it off. But I was lying in bed. My husband was beside me, and I just had this painting in my mind, and I said, I need to get this painting out. Um, and I worked in my studio for days to get that painting out, and it is on my wall. Let's see if I can do this. Can you see it there?
Oh, wow.
So, and it's very textured, and it's 3 feet tall and 4 feet wide. And I called it the perfect storm because that's how I feel that PTSD is. So yeah, so that's kind of just to talk about PTSD a little bit. And you know, police, firefighters, paramedics, military, and even people like you who go through an event. You know, they're just it happens, and it changes people's lives, and it's such a long road. I My personal opinion is that people do not get over PTSD. You learn to navigate it. And how I say, when people say, you know, how are you doing, and I say, you know, I just navigate my next minute. That's how I live my life. And you know, I've always been a half, you know, my cup is half full type of person. I've always been a happy type of person, which I think is a godsend in my case, because there are people that are born and thinking, more negative than positive. And I think that's what's brought me through some of my very darkest moments, because I've had a lot of tragedy in my life, but eventually I pull myself through. I think of the good and I force myself. And sometimes it takes a few days to get through what I'm going through, but I bring myself up instead of bring myself down. But it's a journey.
Yeah,
So for anyone out there that is going through it, just baby steps. Your next minute.
that's amazing. For me, it's my daughter. I'm pretty good now, 99% good days, 1% bad days, but the online trolls, I get a lot of them. That's what used to really set me off, or when things would go viral, I'd just get so paranoid. But now she's my uh she's my little noise canceling headphones. So I just think of her looking at me like laughing when we go down a slide together, or if I race her and I beat her just making a deal of that. I mean, we did that. We did the 5 kilometer run together, and she beat me by a hundredth of a second. And I haven't stopped hearing about that in 2 years, so we need to have a rematch. But
Well, for sure, my children have brought me through so many dark times. I'm in a second marriage. My husband has brought me through so many dark times. Also, my mom. My mom is my best friend. I also have, my best friend Rachel. She's amazing. Unfortunately, she lives far away, but she's my rock. So my children, my husband, my mom, Rachel, and I also have some great, great friends. You know, my friend Patrick, who is a story in himself, Patrick John Mills. But my son Mitch, wow, he's a light. You know, I have a new granddaughter, Ariel. You know, so you just got to keep thinking of the positives. Your
mhm.
hobbies, get your hobbies going. I love to be outside. I love the sun. Not good for your skin. I know my daughter Michaela would say that. Um, yeah. So
Well, well, this was amazing. And like I said, you always correct me when I say I finally met the paramedic who saved my life. Well, you're like, no, this is the second time we met, but second time was much nicer than the first time. Um, Before we go, I do have a not so serious question I ask all of my guests so far.
okay.
Okay, so there's a 100-meter dash. You can walk, run, doesn't matter. Somebody hands you live pigeons. How many do you think you could carry at the end of the 100-meter dash?
Wow, that's kind of a question I would have never thought I'd be asked. Pigeons. Now I've carried chickens and I've carried turkeys. I've carried a lot of animals. Pigeons.
I'm seeing you about five. You could probably carry five, I'm thinking.
Why only five? I think I was gonna say like 100. like like I'm thinking when I carry chickens and I carry turkeys, but they got their strong wings flapping. They're hard to carry, but pigeons are small. I
Wow.
had a I had a friend as a kid and he used to raise pigeons. His name was Chum, Frank Chum. Um, they're small. Why only five?
I don't know.
Long.
Hey, Bret Hart said he could only carry two, so you're three above Bret Hart. So,
Well, you carry them by their legs. I would carry many more than five. That's all I can tell you. I don't know who's Bret Hart. I don't know who he is, but I know he
oh,
many more
okay.
than five.
The one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. But
Oh,
yeah, this was amazing. So my last question is: If there's someone out there that's going through stuff and debating in their head about asking for help or not, what would you say to them?
get help. Yeah, I had an amazing therapist, Lynn Keeler Williams. She had to retire. I went to see her for years. She was amazing. Unfortunately, my therapist after that was not great. But get help. But there's many forms of help. It might be having coffee with a best friend. It might be reaching out to someone who's been through it. Help comes in many forms. So get the help that's right for you. There's help out there. This day and age, sometimes it's hard to find, but get help. Reach out to someone. There's always someone willing to listen. So at first it might be a stranger, but there's always someone that you can reach out to. So get help.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Well, thanks
get
for
help.
coming on and doing this with me. And everyone out there, stay tuned for this book that's going to be coming your way in the near
Can I
future.
can I add something else?
Sure.
You are enough. You are enough.
Beautiful.
So don't give up.
Awesome. Thank you, Joanne.
Okay.
You have yourself a great day and stay tuned for episode 3 coming up next Sunday.
Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.